In this short video today, I'll be taking you through how to answer the IGCSE Cambridge Geography June 2022 question paper 22 map skills question. So this video, as you should know, is that it shows you how to complete this question in the exam. The idea is it offers you hints and tips on the equipment that you will be allowed to have and how you can use that to approach these questions. So what I'd like you to, a good way of doing this is if you have the PDF open, and you can get that following the link in the comments, have that open, follow and complete as we go through, and make sure to practice by completing other past papers. As often, by completing other past papers, you can apply the skills you've learned from this video and my other videos into to other exam situations. So just to recap the map skills question, it is worth 20 marks out of a possible 60. It is compulsory and you should spend about 30 minutes doing it. They typically are based on a mixture of either sediment or rivers, but can be a mixture of the two, but they can sometimes throw in a little bit of coasts or tourism as well. The equipment you're allowed to have is a protractor. I would recommend getting a 360 protractor, a ruler, some pencils, a rubber and a calculator. So make sure before you go into exam you have all of this equipment out, and before you continue with this video make sure you have the equipment out on your desk. Before starting the exam, I would like you to draw this onto the map. A straight line, north to south with a bearing of 0 degrees, 180, east to west, and each of the key points with the various angles. The reason is this becomes very useful for answering the bearing and direction questions, and if you have a 360 compass, again it's much easier to plot these points and you can quickly draw that. So you have all of these and the various bearings. So when you come to put in the bearings, you can match it a bit more easily. Second thing I want you to do is identify the scale and the contour line interval. So here you can see that the scale is 1 to 25,000, which means that 1 centimetre on the map is 25,000 centimetres in real life, or 1 centimetre on the map is 250 metres in real life. Another common scale is 1 to 50,000, which means that 1 centimetre on the map is 500 metres in real life. So getting started. You can see that you have to, from figure 1.1, you've got this area that you need to do, and you need to try and match up the symbols with that on the map. Now, first thing you need to remember is that the map extract and figure number have the same dimensions. By that, I mean that each grid square on the map and figure number is the same. So you can see here that's 4 centimetres on the map and 4 centimetres on the figure number. And that's really important when it comes to, well, it's actually a very useful thing to remember when it comes to answering some of these questions. So let's get started. What I would like you to do is circle draw a box on the actual A3 map of the area that you need to focus on and circle the various features. And you can see those various features here. So the first one, feature A, remember you need to match up, we're looking at the road because it's the whole feature, and you need to match up that colour with exactly that on the key. And you can see here that it's a secondary road. I'm going to copy that out completely and put secondary roads. Next one is the vegetation at B. So I'm going to go to the vegetation part of the map. And again, this one's slightly trickier. And I think it looks to be something like bracken, heath or rough grassland. So I'm going to put that's one of those in. I'm going to put bracken. For feature C, we're looking at a mast. So I'm going to put mast. And for the next one, that's height above sea level. So I'm going to look at the spot heights, and it's 190. And you can see here, 198, sorry, and you can see here what a spot height is. It gives you the key there. So this is quite hard to do, and there's lots of potential options here. So I'm going to try and match up the closest symbol within that green space. And so for me, I can see there's a bit of scrub, so I'm going to write that down. So here, I'm going to review my answers. You can see secondary road correct, bracken correct, mast correct, 198, and scrub. Okay, so for this question, we need to measure the straight line distance between these 2 points. Now, just to recap, like I said, the scale on the map extract is exactly the same as the scale within the exam. So 1 centimetre is 250 metres in real life. So after we check the scale, 1 to 25,000 centimetres, which means 1 centimetre and 250 metres in real life, or 4 centimetres equals 1 kilometre. I'm going to circle the start point, I'm going to circle the end point, and that gives me my focus. I'm going to put my ruler and I might draw a faint line between the two distances or just use it from the ruler. I'm going to measure that at 10.4 centimetres. From that, I'm going to times 10.4 by 250, and that's going to give me an answer of 2,600 metres. So I'm going to put that in, and then I can see that that falls nicely between that area of tolerance. So again, straight line distance is really straightforward. Circle the start, circle the ends. You're going from the point of the town to the point of the other town, measure it, and use the scale. So another common question that you can be asked is finding the bearing between 2 points. So here we're going to find the bearing from Braco to Plymouth. So for this we need your protractor. So we've always circled on the start point, we've got the end point, and that's really important to know that when you're going from Braco to Plymouth, where it goes from is the start point. So we're going to draw the line between the 2 points, and I'm going to draw a north arrow at the start. So that's from Braco, that's the start. So north arrow going directly up. I'll put my protractor face in there, so we've got naught going up towards 0 degrees for the north bearing, and we're going to measure that at 49 degrees. And if I check my answer against the mark scheme, we can clearly see that that's correct. Now, with a bearing question, although not asked in this question, typically it comes looking, not only do you have to work out the bearing, you also have to work out the direction. And so that's why using the compass is really important. So if we've got 49 degrees on my compass, and the question asked me to work out the direction, 49 is very close to northeast, so I'm going to write, if I was asked, I would put northeast is my direction. So let's move on. So this next question I have rarely seen appear. I mean, since 2016, I think it's only appeared twice as an exam question, but it's a useful skill to know how to do. But it is actually a very simple skill if you apply some skills from other subjects. We know that the scale is 1 centimetre is 250 metres in real life, or 4 centimetres is 1 kilometre. And we know that with any shape, if you want to work out the area, it's the width times depth, particularly if it's a sort of a relatively rectangle shape, which this loch or lake is. And when we work out the area of a particular landform like this, we do the widest point times the longest point. So the longest point is 2.7 centimetres, and the widest point is 0.7 centimetres. Once I've got that information, I'm going to times both by 250 metres. So I know that the longest point is 675 metres and that the widest point is 175 metres. After I've times the centimetres by the scale, so I work out what it is in real life. When I times those two bits together, I'm going to get 118,125 metres squared. So that roughly falls closely to the 100,000 square metres, and that is my answer. So remember, if you've got to work out the area of a shape, widest point times longest points, and then whatever it is in centimetres, convert to metres, times them together. So this question is perhaps one of the hardest questions that you could be asked on map skills. And so we can approach, but if we approach this in a certain way, it's actually a very accessible question. Remember, the map dimensions of any figure are exactly the same, the dimensions of the figure are exactly the same as the dimensions on the map. So 12 centimetres here, 12 centimetres on the map. The second thing I'm going to do is draw on the red line of that figure. So you can see here I've drawn onto my map the red line, and that's the bottom of the figure above. And then from that, I'm going to take out my ruler. I'm having the 0 centimetres of the ruler on the left-hand edge. I'm going to measure across where that X falls. The X falls at about 5.2, 5.3 centimetres. So again, if I find 5.2 or 5.3 centimetres on my map, I come across a golf course. And again, that is the land use. So just to recap, when you've got these, the dimensions are exactly the same. Draw on the figure onto your map. You place the ruler with noughts on the left-hand side of the edge, and you measure across. And if you can do that, it's very straightforward. And you would flip that into reverse. You start off with the map, and then you would label that onto the landers. And that's another common question, but please watch the other videos. Have a go at completing other skills. So the next question asks us to use a labelled arrow to show the position of the A736. So again, I'm going to take my ruler, and from that I'm going to measure the A736. I've looked at the key and I know that from the key an A road is red. So that roughly appears at about 6 centimetres, which makes my job a bit easier. So I'm going to place 6 centimetres onto the figure. And I'm going to put a labelled arrow, so I'm going to use the example of Ram's Head. And I'm going to copy that exactly and put that onto my map, so A736. And if I look at the mark scheme, it says 59 to 63 millimetres from the left-hand margin. So again, I've shown you how to do it both ways from this question. How to work out what X is based from the map, and then work out something from the map, draw it onto the cross-section. So just rewind, have a little go, and do this yourself. So sit down, look at the map, match it up. Now, this is probably the hardest skill throughout the whole paper, is drawing on or completing the cross section. But again, follow these little simple steps and have a go. There's lots of different ways of doing this. This is just one way using the various skills that I teach. So you need to find it, look for some other ways of doing it if this one doesn't make sense to you. But I'll try and take it through nice and slowly for you. So the first thing we need to identify is the contour line interval. So here we know that there's a difference of 10 meters at the widest point in. I think that'll be about 10 meters there. And that's really important because you know that as you find another line, that is going to be a 10-meter difference. But also, it's worth remembering that on this particular example, they have labelled on certain lines, and so you need to plot on and work out those lines that have been labelled, because if you do that, it makes the job of labelling your cross-section much easier. So you label on first the contour lines that you can find the heights, and then you can work out the line in the middle because it's going to be the difference of the two using the contour line interval. So first thing you need to do is work out where the black line ends, and that ends at 8.5 centimetres. And so I'm going to start labelling the contour line intervals at 8.5 centimetres on my map. This height is 155 metres. And so I'm going to mark on or write down every time a contour line crosses that red line for the centimetres. So what I mean by that is if I use the map at the bottom, at 9.4 centimetres, a line is crossed, a contour line crosses that red line, 10.2, 10.7, 11, 11.3, and so on, until I get to the ends. And then what I would do is I would look at the brown lines, I would follow the ones that have been labelled with the height, so 160 metres or 165, and I would put those heights on first, and then I'll work out the difference between the two. For this, it's really hard for me to show you on the screen because if I zoom into the A3 map, I lose the quality, so you need to have a go at doing that yourself by looking at the contour lines, following them to find out the heights. And so once you've labelled those on, you can start drawing them onto the cross-sectional area, and then once you've done that, you can connect the dots and draw the cross-section. And if I look at the mark scheme, yeah, it follows that exactly with a slight dip, relatively flat, going to a height of 175. And then we move on to perhaps the questions that require you to know a little bit about key terminology. So this is a very common question. Describe the relief of the land to the north of the main road, A736. So you know what the A736 is that red line. And so I'm going to focus on the area north of that. So pretty much anywhere above that red line. Key word here is relief. And if you don't know what relief means, if you do know what relief means and how to describe that, please continue on to the answer and have a go yourself. If not, please watch for a little bit more theory and to find out what we mean by relief and what words you can use to describe that relief. So if not, just wind forward a little bit further onto the answer. If not, stay and watch for a bit more theory. So when we're talking about relief, we are focusing on the definition of the height and shape of the lands. So the first bit, how can we work out the height on a map? Spot heights, triangulation pillars, or we can use contour lines. So you can see here there's a spot height or a triangulation pillar, and that tells me the highest point is 262, and then we've got a contour line here saying that it's 200 meters. So we can use that first information to tell maybe the highest point, the lowest point, the average height, and things like that. So that's the first part of the definition. The second part is the shape of the lands. What words can we use to describe the shape of the lands? Well, the first thing we can do is look at the contour lines. The closer the contour lines together they are, the steeper the land. So the word steep is a way to describe the shape of the land as well. The flatter the land, the more gentle the slopes, another way to describe it. We can also use words like it's very hilly or mountainous. Or you can look at other contour line patterns that you can see here, and these help you to work out the shape of the land. So I've put some in and what they would look like. If there's lots of rivers, by definition there has to be valleys. If you are by the coast and you can see lots of contour lines close together, there are going to be cliffs. So with that information you can start to say, right, if I have to describe the lands to the north of an area, then I can start thinking about what's the highest and lowest point. If there's a name for the highest point or the lowest point, what's the average height? Is it steep? Is it mountainous? Where is it steep? Where is it flat? So if I go back to this question, I will say something along like the road runs close to the side of a steep-sided valley. I know that because there's a river at the bottom of this valley and the road goes very close to that river. And so, yes, the contour lines are very close together by the road, so therefore it's very steep-sided valley. The road starts at a height of about 120 meters. I can look at some contour lines to help me with that, maybe the odd spot height. Rapidly rising to a high point of 259 meters at Corkendore Law. And I can see that here close to, on my screen, relatively in the center of the map, in grid square 4456. And above the steep slopes towards the northern part of the map, there are more gentle slopes. And I know that because as I go away from the highest point, the contour lines become get further and further apart, so the land is more gentle. If I look at the mark scheme, the highest point 259 meters at Corkendore Law, yep, one mark. The lowest point 120 meters, another mark as well. The road runs close to a steep-sided valley, brilliant. Okay, we can look at the fact that I've labelled the two highest points and lowest points, and that above the steep slopes towards the northern part of the map there are more gentle slopes. So again, very quickly, I have got the necessary marks to get me 4 points by not writing an awful lot, by simply knowing what the definition of relief is. The height, looking for evidence to tell me the difference of the height and the shape of the lands. So this is the final question in this exam paper, and it requires you to describe the distribution of settlement to the south of the main roads on the map extract. And this is a bit of a cheeky question because in this particular part of the question it's asking you not only to describe the distribution of settlement, but actually what it means is to describe the distribution of settlements in the southern part of this map, the area underneath the A road. So what do you mean by distribution? Well, let's think back to population. Population distribution is how the population is spread out across a given area. So what do you mean by spread out? Well, is it densely populated in one or more areas? Where are these places found? So when we come back to settlements, settlement distribution means how settlements are spread out in a given area. In rural areas, which is what this is, it's almost always uneven distribution. And when you come back to this, you look at various settlements and you think, what are their patterns? Are they linear, dispersed, or nucleated? If you can't remember what the types of settlements are, dispersed are ones where the houses are spread out over a wide area. So generally in rural areas, this could be where they are due to farming. So farms need lots of land to enable them to grow their crops or rear their animals. And so these would be in remote or mountainous areas, and then agriculture is the predominant land use with limited job opportunities. Then we have linear settlements. These are the ones that are constructed along roads, rivers, along the sides of lakes. And then you've got nucleated settlements. These are the ones where there's like a central focus, a church, crossroads, or industry. And so settlements are kind of like a circular pattern around those areas. And they tend to be near flat relief. Other things could be sort of a bridging point or a defensive position or near to a good water supply. So back to this question, we're looking at the southern part of the uneven or even distribution. Where are the largest settlements? Are there any? What are the settlement patterns that you can see? What's the distance between the settlements? Can we get some place names in there? What are the types of buildings or settlements that you can see? So linear, dispersed, or nucleated. So if we go back to this question, I have these points to remind me. We can say that the settlements are unevenly distributed, many settlements dispersed throughout the area. The largest settlement is Nielsen, which is nucleated, found in the northwest part of the map. And then the second largest settlement is up a little more, which is a linear settlement found in the southwest area of the map, 4 kilometres away from Neilston. So again, if we check the mark scheme by using a range of place names, locations on the map, telling me types of various settlements, which one's the largest, smallest, etc., we can easily get the marks. So here, I've got 2 points, got 3 points here because it's the name of the settlement, the type of settlement, and where it's found, and likewise done exactly the same there with a little bit of map skills. So find some more questions and have a practice. So thank you for watching. Please do remember key points before I go. Draw on any boxes or lines from the figures of the exam paper onto the A3 map. Draw on the compass with bearings before you start. Identify the scale and contour line interval. And remember, practice does make perfect. So watch this video and apply the skills you've seen from this video to other past papers. And remember, you do have lots of time for this exam, so take it slowly. Just one final point, practice, practice, practice. Subscribe and like. Thank you.